Hey there, YouTubers. Kitten Hoarder here, and you're watching Session Report, the show that takes you to the gamer's table to share in the surprises that come out during play. And today we are going to be playing Legendary Encounters, an Alien deck building game expansions. Do not call this Legendary Encounters Aliens. I will knife you. Anyway, pet peeves aside, so this is the first expansion for the Legendary Encounters system. We've had Legendary Encounters Alien, Legendary Encounters Predator, and Legendary Encounters Firefly so far, and those have all been standalone sets. You can mix and match them, and Predator was a little bit of an expansion for Alien, but it was more of a standalone game. This is a complete 100% expansion for the Alien Legendary Encounters set. So pretty cool, exciting stuff. And I'm going to play through the two new scenarios that come in the game. There's two completely original scenarios, completely original storylines that come in this expansion. It's actually very generous with the content of the expansion. But before I do that, I want to do a short sort of overview of what comes in the Legendary Encounters Alien expansion. And show you a couple of the cards, the ones that I'm not going to be using in my playthroughs. So this is probably, given the recent file size or video length changes that I've been struggling with YouTube, this is probably going to be its own video, short 15 minutes, 20 minutes video, going over some of the new things the expansion adds. So let's just get into it. Alright, it would not be an expansion for a deck building game if we did not have new cards to buy, and that's certainly true here. The Legendary Encounters Alien expansion adds 9 new characters, 2 from each film plus a Ripley that can be played, well, they can all be played in any film. I mean, if you haven't been mixing and matching your character sets in Legendary Encounters Alien, you've not been playing it right. But Ripley has cards that belong to each individual ship deck. You know how each character belongs to a ship. The new Ripley character has cards that belong to all of the ships, which makes her integrate fairly well with those, and it makes her a good choice for when you are mixing and matching, and you get those cards that say, like, for every other Wayland Yutani card that you play this turn, and stuff like that. Anyway, the 5 new characters are Executive Officer Kane and Engineer Brett from the first film. We then have, let me take a look at my other pre-built deck here. I've built up 2 decks for my 2 scenarios I'm going to be playing. We have, that's the new Ripley. We have Private Drake and Lieutenant Gorman from the second film. We then have Superintendent Andrews, and there's another character from the, there it is, Brother Morse from the third film, Alien Cubed. And then finally from, what is it called, Alien something or other, Alien Resurrection, we have Elgin and Reese, I think his name is. I haven't seen the movie in a little while. It took me a little bit to recognize him. He's not quite recognizable in this picture, but in some of them you can tell. He's that French guy who's in all of those movies from the director of Alien Resurrection, such as Amelie and City of Lost Children, and the other films of that guy. Pretty cool director. It's a shame that movie was such a, I don't know. It had great cast, it had a great director, and it had a pretty talented writer, Joss Whedon, and it just sort of did not come together properly. I think partially it was a French director who's not really super fluent in English, trying to direct actors in English. I don't know. Anyway, these are the new characters that come in the deck, and they have some new cool things, like, as you can see, there's multi-class. They have activate abilities, which is similar to something in the original Alien set, but activate was introduced in Predator, And then we have these desperation abilities, which only happen if something really bad's been going on. So in this case, if a player has 5 or more strikes, you can use a desperation ability to heal a strike, but only if that's happened. And there's a couple of other cool new abilities which will probably come up as we play, but those are the new characters. All right, next, as I mentioned, we have two new, completely new scenarios. That means a new location, a new 3 objectives, and each objective has its own hive deck. So I'm not going to go into those because we will be playing through those, but 2 big new keywords are flying, which means the enemies are going to be not just in the complex, but above the complex, which is a little bit, I'm going to have to see how that actually plays, because it's hard to sort of imagine how that's different, other than the fact that you can have 2 enemies in one space. But I know one important difference is that they do not count as being in the complex if they're flying above the complex. So they're moving forward, and then they're... but you can't manipulate them as you might be able to do some things in the complex. Another big important keyword is enhanced. And enhanced means you're basically taking a card from the barracks and like grafting it onto the alien and giving it new abilities and traits and damage. So we'll get into, of course, all of the keywords as they come up, but there's 2 new things, and they have completely original storylines, and that's what this playthrough is going to be, so we're not going to get into detail on that. Okay, the new scenarios have new avatars associated with them, and here's the new avatars. We have an animal handler, we have a veterinarian, and then we have the 3 that I've chosen for this scenario. So that's 5 for the first scenario, and then we have a bunch of clones for the second scenario. I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but a bunch of bald guys who have different colors attached to them. It seems like more of a Guardians of the Galaxy thing, but that's the second scenario. And the avatars have, of course, new role cards, and the new role cards have different abilities. So we'll get into that. One of the avatars has 2 role cards. Let's see, this one is rearrange the enemies and hidden cards in the complex, or the enemies in the air. So you can rearrange cards in the complex. This one is heal a strike with wound, gash or puncture in its name. You can heal a contaminated strike. So the only ability that I know of that can heal a contaminated strike is in that one. And then when we get into the clones, they all have just standard abilities, but more powerful. So scan up to 2 rooms, you get +3 to your buy recruit power. So that's the kind of stuff you see in the new avatars. All right, we also have new drone cards, which is very fun. I like the drone cards a lot. They add some variety to the encounter decks, and I'll get into that in a second when I talk about the next feature. But some of them are like this injured xenomorph, which if it's moved this turn, it gets -3 to its fight power, and the snapping xenomorph, which strikes 2 players at once. And then there's a couple others. My favorite, I don't know if it's in here. There's cocoons. My favorite is there's a scuttling xenomorph or something like that, which is similar to the little baby alien from the first film. On the subject of drone cards, this is a big feature for me because I'm one of those players who felt that the original game was a little bit too easy. Now, the game does get harder with more players, and they've done lots of things to try to address this, and I've generally felt that Legendary Encounters Predator and Legendary Encounters Firefly have a good difficulty, maybe even a little too hard. But Alien was a bit too easy. And the soldier cards are similar to drones, except instead of drones are intended to make the game easier, and I don't know if that's necessarily always true, because, for instance, if you're at the very beginning of the game, you might not have enough attack to kill a drone, because usually the cards in the first encounter deck are like 2 attack or 3 attack. But anyway, generally the intention is drone cards make the game easier, but the soldier drones make the game harder. And these are really cool because you add one of these, just one, from Soldier 1, one from Soldier 2, and one from Soldier 3 to the Hive deck. You add a Soldier 1 to Encounter 1, Soldier 2 to Encounter 2, etc. So this is really cool because you add these in addition to the drone cards, which means that it's even more variety in your encounter sets. And that's something that I really like because while I love the story-driven sort of narrative aspect of the game, which has some great storytelling. It's really amazing. I've said this in a couple of reviews. This is the only game that I've really experienced that gives me the experience of like a plot twist. Like in a movie, you're not sure how the characters are going to get through and then they figure out a way. And similar thing happens here. You have these objectives and you don't quite know what you need to do to deal with them, and then a card comes up and you're like, oh my god, that's it, that's what we need to do, or oh my god, I never would have expected that. But without making you stop and read the rule book and learn a bunch of rules for like 5 minutes before you continue playing the game. It's very seamlessly integrated into the game. So I love that about the game. But after you've played the same encounter a couple of times, you're seeing the same cards over and over again. So those drone cards are really special, and that's actually one of the reasons why I always play with 3 avatars instead of just 1 avatar, because you get those more drone cards in the deck. But this lets you have additional drone cards, even in addition to the drone cards you have, but without making the game easier. It makes the game harder. So that's great. So they're basically all versions of themselves, which is a little disappointing, but I mean, it's understandable. So there's like a Soldier 1, a Soldier 2, and a Soldier 3 version of this Twin Mouth Soldier, which gives you triple strike. And this Soldier 2 and Soldier 3, they're just harder to kill generally. There's like a Piercing Soldier, which cannot be avoided or healed. Strikes can't be avoided or healed. Well, that's out. A Spitting Soldier, which has ranged, which is a new keyword. I believe it was used in Firefly for sure. I don't know if it was used in Predator as well, but ranged lets them strike while they're revealed in the complex. So that's pretty cool. And then the Towering Soldier, which is just very hard to kill for Encounter 1 or Objective 1 enemy. And then we have more face huggers, which is very nice. And then we have the Skittering Soldier, which is very similar to the card I was talking about from the drone deck, but this is in the soldier deck. So that's really cool. A Grasping Soldier, which takes captives from the barracks. So lots of cool stuff. And another cool thing about these is that they bring in mechanics that were used in maybe 1 objective or 2 objectives in the original set, and now you might see those cards pop up in other objectives, and it sort of throws you for a loop. I like that a lot. Okay, on the subject of difficulty, this is another big one for me. Hard mode cards for every scenario in the game. Well, not the Predator and Firefly stuff, but all of the Alien stuff now has hard mode objectives and hard mode locations. And these are very similar to the originals. They're just a little bit more tough. Like, for instance, Brought Something Back adds 3 hive tards to the complex. I think it originally just added 1 or maybe 2. This one, Rough Landing, you draw 2 strikes. Each other player draws a strike. I believe it was you and the next player each draw a strike. So I haven't looked through them in detail, but they just make it a little bit more rough when you get those hazards and when you get those events happening, which I love. So hard mode, very worth it, and there's also hard mode cards for the new scenarios. So I haven't played through the new scenarios. I don't know how much they need it. I know that in the base game, the first location, the second location, those were very easy. The third location, I actually had a lot of trouble with. No, actually, the third location I think was easy as well. It was the fourth location I had a lot of trouble with. The fourth movie. I seem to recall finding that one a little difficult. I don't remember the details. But now you can make all of them as hard as you want with these soldier cards, and of course there's nothing stopping you from adding extra soldier cards into the deck, and the hard mode cards. And there's one more big feature, which I'm going to show you next, that I won't be playing with this playthrough for, I think, reasons that will become obvious when I show it to you, but I'm sure for a lot of players of this game, this is a major feature. For me, it's just another thing in the box. Okay, so the original Alien Encounters, Legendary Encounters Alien had the Alien Player mode. That was a really cool idea. I liked it. A lot of people didn't like it. I guess they found it was unbalanced. I don't remember if it was supposed to be too easy or too hard for the Alien player. I think it was supposed to be too hard for the Alien player to do anything, and they just felt like it was a good idea, but it wasn't very well executed. I think they also didn't like that you sort of switch sides mid-game. So this is an attempt to address that, and of course pay service to the fans who love the Alien franchise with the Queen Mother player. So now one player can become the Alien Queen Mother. You get an alien avatar of one of 4 Alien Mother avatars. And they've all got the same art, but they've got different capabilities. Plus a random roll card of the 4 Alien Queen Mother roll cards. And then you have a starting deck, which is very similar to the starting decks used by the other players. And then we have a complete set of characters representing one sort of boss alien from each of the movies that you can recruit. So you do your own deck building completely separate from the other players, right? You have your own deck, and we've got the perfect organism. We've got life cycle, which belongs to the second movie because it's all about the reproduction. And we've got the beast from the third film, who even in these pictures looks like bad CGI. And then we have the newborn from the final film, which is very nice. Oh, man. Okay. And the Queen Mother player has new abilities. And these are the Bite, Grab, Rush, and Hunt abilities. Also, you change the setup. You basically make it a little easier for all the human players by adding additional drones. And the humans get additional cards in the complex, a complex of 6 cards. A barracks deck of 6 characters. And I guess that's part of the reason they added the 2 new characters in this expansion. Although I'm really excited about the ability to mix and match characters, but still stay within the universe of that film. So I'm really looking forward to that one. But anyway, so the new abilities. Bite. If you play a card with Bite, like this Bite card, you can then spend your attack this turn to attack a human player directly. And it's very similar to attacking the other players as you would have with the Alien player or the Predator players in the other games. You can use Grab to capture a card from the HQ, and there's rules for that. What happens when you grab? You gain the card, and basically it's cocooned, and then when you draw that character into your hand, a new alien bursts out of that character, and you can put that character in the combat zone. Ignore all text on it, and it's basically a new alien. So you basically can capture cards from the HQ, and then put them out into the combat zone as aliens. So that's pretty cool. The rush is add a hive card to the complex, so make things harder for the players. Get more cards out there faster, try and overwhelm them, so that's pretty cool. And then the hunt is discard a card from a human player's hand. So again, just make things harder for the players. I'm, I think, most intrigued by the grab ability. And then they all have extra things that I didn't mention, but those are the main components of the Alien Queen Mother player, which, by the way, is a stupid name, but I understand this was part of the Alien, I guess, expanded universe before this game came out. But in any case, let's, I guess, wrap up the video now, and we'll get into the playthrough. I hope you enjoyed getting a little peek inside the expansion. I know it's fairly new at this point still, so I thought I'd show you a little bit of what I'm not going to be able to show you in the playthrough. But let's get into it. I'm really looking forward to playing these new scenarios.